go. I'm a bulldog. So Georgia, who I'm picking. I love the family atmosphere and the way they handle.
What's up, DawgNation? Jeff Sentell, Before the Hedges, DawgNation.com, brought to you by Kroger. Big show tonight. Last week, you guys remember, we had the scavenger hunt where we talked about everything setting up for Georgia's scavenger hunt weekend. We're going to discuss, break down, compile, chat. We're going to show everything, give you guys a little bit of behind the scenes on scavenger hunt. We're going to share a pretty funny story. New developments here with C.J. Wiley, Travis Smith Jr. We're going to talk about the July commitment date calendar. Man, that thing is filling up faster than Sanford Stadium when Kirby Smart tells everybody to come out for 93K Day. And also, probably the longest, most in-depth DawgNation conversation we've ever had. It's what I spent some time in North Carolina earlier this week. I went up there, got a chance to talk to David Sanders Jr., the five-star offensive tackle, nation's number one offensive tackle, number two offensive tackle prospect. But first, let's give I'd say some congratulations are in order. You guys remember last week's show on Before the Hedges. Since it was a scavenger hunt weekend in Athens, we made it a scavenger hunt Wednesday night in the program. I dropped 5 little things I wanted you guys to pull out of the last night's show, and really great audience participation. I believe I got like 7, 8, 9 responses within like the first but by the time the show was over, I looked in my email inbox, and we had at least like 9, 10 responses, several correct responses, but we have a winner. A gentleman who lives in the metro Atlanta area, let's leave it at that, but Top Dog, Georgia. Top Dog was our scavenger hunt winner. We give you right there the first ever Before the Hedges Cup. I'm just naming that right now on the fly. You are the first annual scavenger hunt winner, and what will be winging your way, sir, is a bevy of DawgNation goods, prize pack. Open up the prize vault. Congratulations, Top Dog, for winning our scavenger hunt last week on Before the Hedges. It kind of made me think of those OG old school days on Before the Hedges when we gave out Kroger gift cards for trivia questions, and we gave out Kroger gift cards. We called it How About Them Groceries, and we got to give out some prizes to one of our very competitive and very knowledgeable viewers and listeners from last week. So really cool there. Great stuff there. Now it's kind of time to talk about what we've got going on tonight's show. Again, congratulations to Top Dog. First and foremost, you want to know about the scavenger hunt. You want to know like what it's about, what does behind the scenes look like. Well, we put together some images from social media. A couple of the players posted a lot on their Instagram stories. And you want to know what it's like to eat dinner with Kirby Smart, what the new photo shoots look like. Unfortunately, let's everybody have a moment of silence. There's no more cookie cakes in the hotel rooms on the official visits. You want to see what the new photo shoots look like. Lots of stuff right here. Let's take a look at it right now on Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. So kind of the first thing you see here is the puzzle. This is Zayden Walker. You get in the scavenger hunt, you play the scavenger hunt, you got a puzzle you got to put together. Of course, if you were in the scavenger hunt, one of the main things you had to do was find Kirby Smart. There's Travis Smith, Coach Coley. There's both wide receivers on official visit, C.J. Wiley. And then one of the things that the official visitors got to see after their photo shoot was they got to go out on a Dooley Field, look up around Sanford Stadium. They looked up to the Jumbotron in the west end zone. There was a program kind of like those pregame movies you see. And take a look at this right there. This is Zaire Addison with his family. Here's Bo Jackson. They're simulating light up Sanford. They've got a red carpet. Zaire Addison told me it was the most intense, energetic photo shoot he's ever been a part of. Right there's Trey McNutt. One of the things Georgia did on the scavenger hunt was they took him around campus. I thought this is really cool. Everybody knows the tribute wall to the first 5 African-American football players in Georgia Bulldog football history. That was one of the stops they got to take a look at right there. The first 5 you see right there. There's Zaire Addison. One of the things you did along the scavenger hunt is when you collected the right prizes, you were able to put together and piece together a picture of yourself when you got all the pieces in the scavenger hunt to create your kind of portrait, then you were done with everything right there. Then what they did is, this is Zaire Addison's father. One of the things he said was he really appreciates the development at UGA. There's another hype video right there inside the House of Pain. And then here's what the dinner table looked like. This is Zaire Addison and his family. There's Coach Smart's table setting right there. You see Coach Cyril's, Stacy Cyril's there as well, with Zaire Addison and his family. Cool little nugget right there for what you saw right there with Zaire Addison and his family is Zaire's uncle, Chris Rogers, played at Alabama, signed at Alabama in 2005, and he was coached by Kirby Smart. He was a defensive back, so he gave us a very colorful quote last week that we obviously was a story on DawgNation.com, but he said, Coach Smart talking to his nephew about what it's going to be, what it would be like at Georgia, and he says, Coach Smart will coach the stew out of you. We're going to clean that up for a PG audience, PG-13 audience, but it was very colorful, very descriptive, maybe Ivory soap commercial, bar of soap commercial type language, but hey, it's football. It's not knitting class and everything else like that. I thought that was pretty cool. And one of the things in social media, Mason Smith, Georgia offensive line commitment, everybody knows him as the Georgia on My Mind commitment, who had it at his commitment ceremony. Ray Charles kind of bellowed through the auditorium, but Mason's been working hard to try and get Zaire Addison and both David Sanders to Georgia. One of the things they had to do on the scavenger hunt was they had to but they had to find, a namesake, an iconic, an easy-to-spot fountain on the Georgia campus. And I'm sure some of you guys saw it on social media. Take a look at this right here. This is something from David Sanders. He's part of this. He's part of this tonight. But take a look at this right here. View of the fact that Mason and Zaire jumped into a 1-foot fountain. Like Zaire told me, he said, I couldn't see to the bottom. I thought it was. I mean, I was lucky broken ankles or shins or knees were not severed in that. Tell me what was going on there.
All right, so like you said, I'm a smart guy. I seen the water and I seen everything around the water. So I instantly was saying, I'm going to take the video or the picture. That was off the because I wasn't stepping in the water, jumping in the water, nothing. So I grabbed the phone as soon as we got off the cart, right? And then they go to it. The lady's like, yeah, get in the water, get in the water. And they're like, jump. But she never really said anything. Like there was no clear directions either to step in it or jump in it. And like, it's like this muddy, murky water looking in the fountain. You can tell it hasn't been touched for, a long, long time, maybe like 20, 30 years probably. and so you can't really see. And the fountain it was kind of big. So it looked a lot deeper than what it was. So Zaire and Mason get up there and I'm just recording like this. I mean, I'm stepping back because they look like they're about to jump. And I just see him like in the air, and I'm like, oh my. And then they both just hit the bottom like super quick. I was like, I hope nobody got hurt because that could have been bad. But it was super funny in the moment because then they were soaked for the rest of the scavenger hunt. but it was fun. I'm glad nobody got hurt, but it was definitely crazy that the fact that they actually jumped in and then nobody else, no other group ended up jumping in. So we were the only ones. So that was really a alignment moment for sure. They were just enjoying the moment.
That's pretty good stuff right there. So David Sanders described it. He's part of our DawgNation conversation later in the Big Five. But wrapping up number one on our Big Five right there was just I asked him what was going on because he was in the offensive lineman group. Everybody, what'd you think of that? Like I said, man, there's a good thing no ankles were sprained or anything like that with those two large human beings jumping into maybe a foot of water, something like that. Very colorful. David was like, it was truly a lineman moment. Interesting stuff. Number one on our Before the Hedges Big Five. Let's move to number two, and this is a good one. I got a chance to speak to Travis Smith Jr., priority wide receiver target at Westlake High School. He set his commitment date for July 13th. He's going to visit Georgia on his official visit on May 31st. He was also part of the scavenger hunt this past weekend, and I asked him to tell me about the scavenger hunt, what it meant. Was it cool? He's been to Georgia many, many times. He's had many, many great visits at the University of Georgia. Take a look at this quote right here, and I think it says a lot right now. This was number one amongst all my visits, all the visits he's ever been at Georgia. This scavenger hunt was by far the most fun I've ever had on any visit number one over any visit I've ever been to. My good friend, guys, Brandon Adams, when he told me like he likes to look at recruiting stories. He likes to play CSI DawgNation with his magnifying glass out like he's part of a detective in the scavenger hunt and look through the quotes, look for keywords and key phrases. I think right there would be a quote that my man Brandon would like to see very much in any story regarding a priority wide receiver target for the 2025 class and Georgia's annual May scavenger hunt. Scavenger hunt was a lot different this year. They had more unofficials. They had more officials. They had a marquee 5-star unofficial visitor in David Sanders. They had, I believe, 4 or 5 stars. They had the 2026 anchor commitment in Jared Curtis as a part of that as well in 2026. They had a tight end in Brock Harris that sure seems like Todd Hartley really wants to sign in 2026. And knowing Todd Hartley's schedule, he'll be getting commitments from his 2026 tight ends probably this fall. But really cool stuff there. Travis Smith, that's number 2 on our Big 5 on Before the Hedges. Number 3, I think it's becoming almost a weekly thing. We're on Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger, where we've got to talk about all things C.J. Wiley. First of all, let's go to the video right here. C.J. was in action for Milton High School. They played Peachtree Ridge. C.J. Wiley has 2 touchdowns in basically a quarter and a half of work right here. This is a good sequence right here. Watch this. Deep ball. They took a shot early. Yes, I know he had to stop and wait on the ball. Timing was off. CJ would tell you he would catch that. That's a drop. But coming right back to him, maybe 1-2 plays later, Milton feeds the rock to C.J. Wiley. That's a touchdown. That's all good highlights. C.J. Wiley had 14 touchdowns last year. Look what he did. This is what I thought was really impressive. He pays the penance for the drop right there on the sidelines, comes over, push-ups on your knuckles. Sensei Kreese and the Karate Kid would be very happy with those push-ups on the knuckles. Here he is after his second touchdown, and this guy's like, yeah, it's what I do. I'm supposed to catch these touchdowns right here. So one of the things we're talking C.J. Wiley is we might look back on this, and, you know, is Georgia in it? Yes. I think, is LSU lurking? Yes. But I think maybe the team to watch here in a fight with Georgia for C.J. Wiley, I don't think it's LSU. They've offered late. Yes, he's a legacy from both of his parents at LSU. His dad went from LSU, where he was a 2-time All-SEC defensive lineman, went to the NFL, played 7 years in the NFL with a bunch of teams. His mom ran track at LSU. But I think I'm watching him, and I'm trying to think about the big contenders for C.J. Wiley. I'm thinking about maybe FSU was a school to watch there. I know he's going to take his officials. He's told me he wants to make his decision in late July, early August as well. And, you know, one of the things with CJ, we might look back at this and say this weekend, this past week, Georgia had 2 coaches there, offensive coordinator Mike Bobo and wide receivers coach James Coley there at his spring game. There were some coaches from, I believe, North Carolina there, South Carolina there, a smattering of other universities. But you saw the Georgia presence was in full and in force right there. And then you saw, you know, Coley and Bobo were spending a lot of time talking to his parents as well. And now combine that with Georgia then going and hosting him on the unofficial visit weekend. CJ was part of that group there with Travis Smith Jr. trying to find Kirby Smart. And you know, the good time was had by all, obviously, because based on what Travis Smith Jr. had to say right there about that visit. So C.J. Wiley, good update there. Georgia's going to get a visit mid-June. I believe he's on June 14th. That's probably going to be the weekend when quarterback Ryan Montgomery comes back for his second unofficial visit. Well, his second visit weekend in the month of June. He's going to be there in May 31st, but he's going to come back and try and help build the class on another weekend. That's what he's trying to do. He's also got the Elite 11 now. He qualified for the Elite 11 out in California. That's on June 18th to 20th. So Ryan Montgomery, coming off a turf toe injury, dealing with a turf toe injury as well. He is going to have a very busy June as well. But good updates there. You've seen a little bit of the scavenger hunt. You've seen a little bit behind the scenes about that funny but almost a little scary fountain story. You got an update on C.J. Wiley. You got an update on Travis Smith. We're 3 nuggets deep into the Big Five here on Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. And let's go to number 4 right now. Number 4, guys, July. I've been hinting about it for the last couple of weeks, maybe 3 or 4 weeks now. July is about to get very busy. How busy? Take a look at this right here. These are already the confirmed dates that we have for major Georgia targets and when they're set to make their college decision. Your eyes will probably go straight to July the 20th. Bryce Davis, got a chance to visit Bryce up at Grimsley High School this week while I was up there checking in on Providence Day and Mr. Sanders. Christian Garrett, the state champion and the shot put, and then Cortez Smith, the interior offensive lineman out of Parkview High School. He's another state champion and the shot put as well. 3 guys. That would be new for DawgNation to see 3 potential priority targets all commit on the very same day for the Georgia Bulldogs. I've been covering Georgia recruiting since May of 2015, I believe. And aside from a signing day where you have a flip or 2, where Georgia may have pulled 2 or 3 new ones back in the old days, I got to say, Georgia having a chance to have 3 commitments in one day is pretty sporty news right there. Dontrell Glover, July 1st, Langston Hughes. He just established his Final Four recently. Javon Boggs as well. Interesting final group for Javon Boggs. He doesn't have Florida. He has SC. I believe he has a couple other schools. Georgia's in there as well. Missouri's in there, I believe. And then also Zayden Walker right there. And we already mentioned Travis Smith Jr. as well. So big July coming ahead here, potentially for DawgNation for the class of 2025 in Athens as well. That, my friends, is your number 4 segment here on Big Five. And we usually leave the number 5 hole for a 5-star. It usually is a very big DawgNation conversation. This is a good one. This is kind of a very interesting one. You want to know what David Sanders was feeling. You know how David Sanders viewed his latest unofficial visit to Georgia. Check it out right here. Let's go to the video. Let's go to the interview. DawgNation conversation time with David Sanders Jr. Since we spoke to you, first of all, I've heard good things about the weight check, man. Where are you reporting in out now, man? You're a heavyweight, right?
Yes, sir. I'm 285 now. I weighed in at 285 at Georgia this past weekend, so I was happy about that.
I mean, are you officially a fat boy now? I mean, come on.
I wouldn't say a fat boy. I don't have a stomach yet, but I'm up there, though.
You're one of the big boys now, 285.
Yeah, I'm one of the big boys now for sure.
David, you've been to Georgia so many times. They've made you feel like a priority so many times. Like, what did they do this time?
I think this time was a little bit more different of an experience. You know, they added that personal touch to this visit. You know, we did have one football meeting that was unscheduled, but we did it just to get a better understanding, like their offense. It was like a whole offensive meeting. We just got to get a better understanding of the offense, how it's ran, like the ranking they had between other SEC schools and other schools just in college football in general. So it was just good to see those numbers, but it was very brief. It was like 25, 30-minute meeting, and then we got right to the scavenger hunt. Excuse me. So and there was just a big group. They shared everything. We were able to ask questions, but it was like really, really brief, really quickly, because they wanted us to have fun for the most part. So it was me, Coach Searles, the other offensive tackles, Zaire Addison, and then we had Mason Short with us as well. So it was us 3 really connecting with each other. You know, Mason's already committed, so he's doing his, you know, commitment speeches and all that stuff to try to get us to commit. And Zaire, me and Zaire are still on our like recruiting trail. So it was pretty cool to be with those guys and, you know, do something other than just sit in team meeting rooms and watch football practice. You know, we got to run around campus, see different parts of campus, answer different questions, you know, see the personality of Coach Searles outside of coaching. I think that was really, really big because not only are you going to have him as a coach, but that's somebody that you're going to have each and every day.
Yeah, Zaire said you guys set the record for the best time for any offensive line group ever.
Yes, sir. Coach Smart told me that offensive line had never won and we always came in last. I told him we had some athletic linemen this year, so we're going to change it. So we came in third, which we wanted to win the whole thing, and we had speculations that everybody was cheating that came in front of us. I think we really won, but he was still impressed that we came so high. So that was really good. We set the standard for the big boys for sure.
Dude, everybody cheats in that thing. They block you in bars. They take
keys.
Flat tires. I heard you guys had a flat tire and everything.
Flat tire. But so it was good that we caught it in the beginning because I think somebody tried to sabotage us. Oh. We caught it in the beginning because nobody could start until everybody was at their starting spot. So if we would have had a flat, like when the game started, we would have been cooked.
David, this is the number one question I get from our readers and our audience. Do you feel like you're going to take all of your officials? Like, have you talked about it as a family? Are you guys going to get all the way to maybe August? I don't know if you've ever thought about your date, but like, are you going to make sure you run the gauntlet in June with all your officials?
Oh, yes, sir. As of right now, I'm going to take all 5 of my officials that I have set in June. I don't believe that we'll find anything because I really want to take my time with each and every school and give everybody their equal shot because as of right now, this is an even playing field. So I feel like after officials, everybody will have that's the final say so really because I want to be committed before the season starts. So that'll be the last one. And I think it'd be very important to do each and every one because I feel like everybody's going to give you their best shot on the officials. That's the whole purpose. So I feel like talking to my parents and everybody, you can't get caught up in the emotional ties of everything because you can easily just say, oh, yeah, they took us here for dinner. We did this after practice. We were able to hang out. We went on the boat. We went into the lake. I mean, all this different stuff they're going to throw at you during officials. If all of that's bottled up and you just want to make that decision right there, I feel like you might not make the correct decision. So I feel like after the officials, all 5 of them in July, just no contact with, like reporters or coaches, just really just taking that time to focus on my high school team, one, and then just focusing on making that decision. Then obviously I go to team camp in July. That's no cell phones, no books, no nothing. It's just you and your team. And I feel like after that, I have a really good idea because I'll be able to just sit in the room and really think about, everything that's happened over the course of these past 4 years and think about the different relationships I've built, things I've heard, things I've learned, and the things I know I'm going to get at the next level. So I'm really excited for that. But I believe I'm going to take all 5 of my officials, and unless I just fall in love with that one, like you're going to get that. If I get that feeling, then we might just have to call it quits. But as of right now, I think I'm going to take all of them. Yes, sir.
When's your team camp?
July. It's like the last week of July, right before the season starts. It's just like a getaway purpose for our team. Nobody has a phone, no computers, no iPads, anything. It's really just you add that connection with the team. So I'm a senior now, so I have a freshman that I'm rooming with, and just to get to learn more about him, and he just learn more about me, ask me different questions, I ask him stuff, and I think that's what I was saying during that time, not having any connection with anybody, nobody really wavering my head for any reason. I can really just think, and I feel like when I come back down from that mountain, I have a pretty clear answer on where I want to go.
Wow, sounds like you might make it there.
Yes, sir. Maybe, yeah.
David, what did Kirby or Coach Searles leave you with anything? I'm sure they want to let you know. They want to leave you with a message. What was the message this time?
For sure. I think it was the same message they've been sending me since they started recruiting me, just that I'm a priority for the University of Georgia, and they need me to continue these steps of, being that legendary program. Obviously they already have guys there. They're missing, that was another big point. The fact that they might end up losing their entire starting offensive line in this next year. So they want me to be, a part of that, not necessarily rebuild, but that part of that next class that'll just be the monster, the Great Wall of Georgia is what they called it all weekend. So, with me, Mason, and a couple other pieces, that'd be crazy. That'd be a crazy offensive line. But yeah, I would definitely say they just continue you're a priority for us. We already got your boy Mason because me and him created that relationship even when he was committed to Alabama. So that's been one of my good friends throughout this recruitment process. And he loves Coach Searles, loves Coach Smart. So they've been using him, and he's been hitting me up every so often. So they're doing a great job. But the main message was that I'm a priority, and they say we're going to go real in depth during my official. So I look forward to that on June 7th.
Do you have any questions left about Georgia?
To be honest, I have no questions left. I think it's really just gonna get that feeling that this is the place. Obviously they've been the top school in my mind since you step foot on Georgia's campus. I mean, you can't deny the fact that if you're a top player in the country, you want to play against top level competition, you want to play with guys with the same mindset as you. I mean, it doesn't get any better than the University of Georgia. So I think for me, it's just the whole family feeling that same feeling as, how I am or how we are at different places. So I think it'd be good getting that last one at the official, hanging out with some of the guys that are on the team, seeing how they felt, even like the current freshmen, like Mike Uni and Dylan Calhoun. They've been the two guys I've been in great contact with, and they've been loving it ever since they got there. But really getting to talk to them, because I'll be there for 2-3 days, and the downfalls, the successes that they had while they were there, things they didn't like, things they like. You really be able to go in depth with all that type of stuff during the official. So I'm super excited for that. But Georgia has done a wonderful job since they started recruiting me when I was in middle school, freshman year. So I can't say enough about that program and those coaches for sure.
David, you know how your classes and your finals, they go like half of it is your coursework, half of it is your final. If you had to break down your decision, do you think like 33% might be relationships up to this point, and the 33% might be what happens on the official and that vibe? Or how do you think you'll put together that recipe?
For sure. I would say 75% of this whole thing would be relationships, and then you throw in the official visit would be a very small percent. I'll put it at maybe like 5% of everything, because they're going to tell you everything they've already been telling you since you've been getting recruited. It's going to be on a bigger stage, I believe. But you got to put in the things that are most important to you, like academics, the social aspect of where you're going to be, the guys in the locker room, the future of the program, the development. All those different pieces are definitely going to play a part. But that personal connection that you have with the head coach, the position coach, the strength and conditioning coach, the nutrition staff, everybody. I mean, that's what it's really going to be, because those are the people you're going to be with day in and day out. I mean, do you feel comfortable with going into that locker room each and every day and just being happy, not necessarily with the mindset of I just want to go to the NFL or I just want to do this? Like, can you just go in there and just be yourself? And that's really what I'm looking for. But I really think the officials are going to be just a fun time for me and my family to enjoy each other, enjoy our time at these universities with the different recruits that are there, picking some of the other guys' brains, whether they're committed or not committed, just seeing what is everybody going to do? Because, you want to have a big class wherever you go. So if it's not the school we're at, maybe we all might team up somewhere else. So it's going to be just pretty cool, because all of our visits are all kind of the same, and, around the same schools, the top schools are the top schools, and the top guys go to the top schools. So it's going to be definitely interesting to see what they do on the officials, because I'm just expecting a lot of things I've probably already seen and already heard, just on a bigger scale for sure.
Did they get you at 6'7"? What was your height at Georgia this week?
6'6" and 1/4. That's what, with the no shoes and nothing like that.
Just wrapping up here, David. This is like the State of the Union address, but it's like the state of David Sanders right now. How would you describe where your relationships are at right now with Kirby and Coach Searles? What does that feel like?
I would definitely say I have a great relationship with Coach Searles. And I would say earlier in my recruitment process, I didn't really, when they were allowed to contact, I didn't really talk to Coach Smart as much, but it's kind of really picked up within these past 2 months. Like, we'll have consistent FaceTime calls, every Sunday he tries to call me, at least every Sunday. Just even if it's not about football, he'll just talk to me about life. I know he's really invested to see how I was doing on my exams and making sure I was turning everything in on time. So he was on me pretty hard about that. And then, so it's just been pretty fun just seeing him outside of like the head coach, type of aura. Like, just seeing him talk to me about academics. I've been sending them my weightlifting videos and me hang cleaning and benching and all that stuff. So it's just been pretty fun seeing these coaches outside of the show, and then asking them questions that maybe they wouldn't expect out of you to ask them. So it's been pretty cool. But I would say our relationship is really good, and it's grown over the years for sure.
Wouldn't be a David Sanders interview if I didn't ask you about your family and your 3 wonderful sisters. What did they think this weekend, man? What did they think? Were they good scavenger hunt helpers?
Oh yeah. Now, if you've seen the video, I'm sure we have a lot of videos. The girls probably had the most fun out of anybody. If they could have jumped in the water, I'm sure they would have. But they had a blast. I think for them too, to see brother not really sitting in meetings all day and really getting to interact with me. I held their hands while we were running, and we're just running around the campus, and them seeing different parts of like, oh, this is where brother gonna be if he's studying. Like we went to the ranking, and that's where you do like all your academic stuff. So they were telling him like, yeah, this is where your brother would be if so if you call him and he's in here, you know he's doing work and stuff like that. They got to see the weight room, the facilities, all that different stuff around campus. So learning their way around, I think they had a good time, and obviously that was something new for my parents too. Like we had never really, they had toured us around the campus, but really going in depth with each spot and, you know, the history behind everything that's on campus. I think that was pretty cool for my parents to see as well. So everybody had a great time. And again, it was just fun having to do something other than football. You know, it was a cool experience.
Wrapping it up, David, what was your favorite part of the weekend?
Definitely the scavenger hunt and seeing Coach Searles, you know, be last and all the running stuff. And we got on him on Friday night. We were telling him to stretch because me and Zaire and Mason, we were ready to go. And then on Saturday, you know, he was all slow, so we were on him bad because he'll be on us in practice. So we had to get our shot.
Oh wow! So you flipped the script, right? You had to say, Coach, let's go.
Oh yeah, we had to tell him let's go. Yeah, so that was the highlight for sure.
David, man, I appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for waiting a little bit, man. And hey, David Sanders, they call him Bra Bra. Georgia fans call him the #1 offensive tackle in the country and the guy they would really love to see in red and black. David, got a big decision up ahead. Thank you for your time, man.
Yes, sir. I appreciate your time always.
Thanks, David. There you go, guys. David Sanders Jr. Lots of cool things to unpack about there. Did you see favorite parts with the offensive line guys kind of gelled together and they were ragging Coach Searles a little bit, telling him to hurry up, telling him to move faster, telling him to stretch on Friday night. That's pretty cool because they know if they do end up at Georgia, then that's what Coach Searles is going to be telling them to do all the time. Do it quicker, on the hop, on the move. He's going to be urging them all the time to pick up the pace. So they got to do that on the unofficial visit there. Really cool stuff all through there. Kirby Smart relationship, how he felt about the University of Georgia, when he will make his decision, the timelines. Will he take all of his official visits? He's planning on doing that. He's going to go up. I love this part of the story. So they have a team retreat at Providence Day. They've won 3 straight state titles in their classification. And at the end of July, right before the season, it's a team bonding thing. It's kind of like Remember the Titans, but not in Gettysburg. They go up a mountain. And once they all report to the camp, Coach goes around, Coach Chad Greer, great football coach, known him a lot of years. He takes up all the cell phones, and they're disconnected from the outside world. They pair up. A senior gets a freshman, and David kind of in his mind, he's thinking, okay, I won't have any phone. I won't have any distraction, no TV. I'll be kind of alone to myself, and that's when he'll kind of put together all the pieces from his June official visits to make his decision sometime in July. You heard him say he was probably not going to do a lot of media or talk to a lot of coaches in the month of July because he just wants a clean slate. He wants to kind of process it. But again, you can't not watch that video and say that the University of Georgia, or wonder if the University of Georgia helped itself with another great visit from David Sanders Jr. and his family this weekend. His 3 younger sisters loved it. So if his 3 younger sisters loved it, then obviously David Sanders Jr. and his family is going to love it as well. Always appreciate the time that I get a chance to talk to David. I'm really grateful for that time, kind of trying to share his story the best way we know how. And this is a very special football player. He's a guy like somebody was asking me, I was talking to college coaches at a practice, and I was just kind of thinking in my head, I don't know if I've seen 10 better prospects at this stage of their high school career as where David Sanders is right now. You also got the big boy update on his waist. He said he doesn't have a belly yet, but he was around 256, 258 when he ended his junior year. And was there a minor concern about, probably not, because you watch the film and you know his frame, you know he's going to grow. But David Sanders is now 285 pounds, so any weight issues there regarding David being able to play, earn time, anywhere in the SEC, those are going to be negated when he shows up. Basically, he's a little bit bigger than Broderick Jones was when he reported to Georgia not when he reported to Georgia, but when he was entering his senior season in 2019 at Lithonia High School. We all know how Broderick Jones turned out. David Sanders Jr. is that type of player. So very interesting interview there. It's an extended DawgNation conversation. Maybe it was the Oppenheimer version. You guys might think that because it went a little long. But I think when you've got the number one target on the board, the number 2 offensive tackle in the country, really insightful interview there. So I wanted to bring that to you guys, as much of it as I could. Guys, that's your Big Five. Our Big Five for DawgNation's Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. Now, question of the week time. And it's kind of simple. Rivalries are on my mind. Also, recruiting trail stuff's on my mind because I logged a lot of miles already this week, probably like 800, 900 miles already this week. But question of the week is, who do you consider currently to be Georgia's biggest recruiting rival? Let me see what's going on here on YouTube first. I see Randy Payne, how are you doing? Arkansas Dog Fan. Frederick Meredith. Doug Magnus. The DGD podcast, man. How are you doing, sir? What do you guys think? Which program do you now consider to be Georgia's biggest recruiting rival? I think there's probably 3 answers. I think there's 3. I think Clemson is going to try to be this year, and there's a lot of head-to-heads, as we all know, and that's interesting. I think it's really either Alabama or Ohio State. I think for different reasons, Alabama has the championships. They have not the coaching czar that they had before in Nick Saban. Alabama has still beaten Georgia more than Georgia's beaten them, even in the apex so far, or the high times of the Kirby Smart era. Of course, Georgia has 2 natties as well. And Ohio State is really kind of going all in this year to kind of get the championship on their own, to beat TTUN, that team up north. And I really think there's going to be some issues at Ohio State if they don't get it done this year. But you think about the way Ohio State is trying to recruit now, recruit nationally. Ryan Day is very upfront about collectives and the money it takes to sustain a roster now. So that's very clear language to me that Ohio State is certainly trying to win all the recruiting races it can now against even the Southeastern schools for players in the Deep South. So maybe a potential answer would be, Randy, it's pretty good one right there. Florida State, they're coming up a lot. They're trying to poach a lot of those down south Georgia boys, those down south Georgia boy kids. Chief Jay Bowen, that's Texas is a good example there as well. CK Emmett fan, Bama's still the biggest rival. DGD podcast says Ohio State is getting there. Bobby Sagas, I don't think you're correct there. Frederick Meredith, how are you doing? Chief Jay Bowen, does Georgia have a chance to have a top 3 recruiting class this year? Yes, they'll have a top 3 recruiting class. I think there's going to be a player or two. I mean, really, if you could tell me right now that Georgia ends up with maybe 2-3 more 5-stars in this class, it could be Elijah Griffin. It could be a flip of Justice Terry. It could be a David Sanders. Could be C.J. Wiley might wind up being a 5-star. It could be, you keep going up and down the list. But I think if Georgia gets 2 or 3 more 5-stars in this class, I think they'll easily be top 3, and I think they might even have a number 1 class again. Because, again, the architecture is there. Georgia's trying to flip Justice Terry, sign David Sanders Jr. I feel they're going to retain Elias Williams. And then it's like, okay, what about, Elijah Griffin, Justice Terry, David Sanders? Elias Williams is already in the class. Are they going to make a run at Trey McNutt now? Yeah, I think they are. What about Bo Jackson? Is that the running back? Is it Usmani Kromah? Is it who are they going to fill the rest of that offensive line class? Zaire Addison, I talked to him after his visit to Georgia over the weekend, and Zaire now puts Georgia amongst his top group after his first visit as a recruit, a wanted recruit in Athens. So I think that's going to be pretty good right there. Bill Kibbe, what position group do I think has the biggest needs for this recruiting cycle? No doubt about it. Wide receiver. Georgia could turn over 5 or 6 guys to the NFL at wide receiver. Same thing for offensive line. 5 or 6 guys, and then the defensive line again. I think Georgia's DB group is interesting. The cornerback spot, there's not a lot of needs there with what they did in the previous class. Georgia's just going to continue to recruit linebackers as long as Glenn Schumann spells his name with two with two ends, and he wears those sweatshirts. That's just kind of like the sun coming up each and every day now. But Schley County, yeah, Frederick Meredith, yeah, that's right. Zayden Walker, that's another guy. Schley County, Georgia. It's like I always hear my Obi-Wan Kenobi producer in my ear. Make sure you say Sly. I've got a mental trick now with Sly, like, oh, you Sly dog, or oh, you Sly producer, always slipping in the correct phonetics here. Hooked on Phonics works for Before the Hedges. So very good stuff there. Those are your questions of the week. Now, what about the stuff you see in each and every episode of Before the Hedges? You want to see it right now? Let's take a look at the class breakdown right now. Ryan Montgomery, Bo Walker, Thomas Blackshear. That's the most recent commitment right there, Mr. Blackshear. We know how the Blackshear is a very happy term now in Georgia football and Georgia football recruiting. Of course, that's because Blackshear is the home of Stetson Bennett. And so that name, that word, Blackshear, it's got a lot of happy, good vibes there for Georgia football recruiting. Ethan Barbour, he had a nice showing in his first spring game at Milton High. I captured pretty good video of him basically acting like an enforcer, saying, you're not getting into the club. You're not getting to my inside the line of scrimmage. You're not getting to my running back right here. Again, there's Mason Short. The really interesting, you want to go back to that DawgNation conversation earlier with David Sanders Jr. David even articulated how tight he is with Mason Short. It goes back to when Mason was committed to Alabama, and Alabama and Saban was really coming after David Sanders. And again, Sanders still will take an official visit to Alabama, even though you kind of hear the primary contenders now at Georgia, Ohio State, Tennessee, Clemson. He's already taken officials to Nebraska and South Carolina. Really cool there. There's your offensive side of the ball. Let's take a look at the defensive side of the ball. You've got, again, kind of lonely out there. Got some crickets out there. I know Miss Kaylee Mansell is ready to put a lot of corners and D linemen. Now, I'm going to tell you, Kaylee, that D-line group is going to get a lot bigger. You're going to have to need to expand that like you did last year. Kind of like put on that expanded waistline for the defensive line group right there. Linebacker Jaden Perlotti is going to visit a lot of schools. It's what he's always told me he was going to do. And then, you got the edge, Darren Kinnebon as well. Moving on, let's take a look at take a look at the at-a-glance recruiting snapshot. 9 commitments. Georgia held serve at number 12 nationally, 6 on offense, 3 on defense. The majority of those commits are from the state of Georgia. 7 of them are inside SEC country. 2 of those are outside SEC country. That's Ryan Montgomery in Ohio and Darren Kinnebon out of New Jersey. There's currently only 1 5-star. Again, it's a really weird time, guys, right now. Wake Forest, I believe, Syracuse, Auburn, those schools are currently ahead of Georgia in recruiting, but Georgia only has 9 commitments. I mean, I think the number 1 school in the country is Notre Dame, and they have 21 commitments. So just wait, guys. It's coming. We kind of teased it a little bit with like what's going on in the month of July with all these commitment dates being established. I mean, really, now the prime recruiting time is May, June, July. You visit, you host camps in June, and everybody decides in July, and then everybody goes plays ball in August. They lock up their spots. They lock up their top targets, and that's the way it's going to be. Speaking of top targets, you want to hear a tease? Here's a tease. There is a new name inside the top 15 of our top early targets for 2025. Dijon Lee is number 15. Again, Alabama looms high there. Not only 1 new name, but 2 new names. You've got Zaire Addison out of Tampa, Florida. Really would be impressive if Georgia can add Zaire, who I think outside of David Sanders, to me, looks like the best offensive line prospect in the country. in the class of 2025. Zaire's got game, guys. He's got length. He's got size, natural aggression, versatility. He's got twitch. He can play in space. New name is Jalen Morgan. We're going to write about him on DawgNation.com very shortly. This is a young man out of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. He visited Georgia this past weekend for the scavenger hunt. He's going to take an official visit to Georgia on June 21st. He's going to make his decision sometime in July, he told me. But you want to talk about a guy, when you see this interview, when you read it on DawgNation.com, you're going to say, yep, sounds like the type of guy Georgia goes after. Sounds like the type of guy that Georgia seeks at the DB spot. Georgia feels he can play a safety, a nickel, a free, or a strong. He can play the star. He can play a lot of positions, be versatile across the front. He just recently got offered by Georgia, but Jalen was like, I'm pretty sure the offer from Georgia is coming. Why did he know that? Because Donta Williams offered him when he was at USC, and T-Rob had offered him when he was at Alabama. Same coaches were there. They get around to offering him. He feels like a priority. Georgia is recruiting him as hard as anyone. And Jalen said this. This is a little tease on the story. He said, all right, he goes, I'm not the fastest, but I'm pretty fast. I'm not the strongest, but I'm pretty strong. Not the twitchiest, but I'm pretty twitchy. Where I make all the plays on the football field is film study, being a student of the game, caring about the little things, acting like a vessel of everything my coaches pour into me. And guys, that you want to talk like a future Bulldog or sound like a future Bulldog. Jalen Morgan is sounding like a future Bulldog right now. Number 11 is Isaiah Gibson. Everybody knows about that young man from Warner Robins. He says he's going to take that thing a long way up to early signing day. Can Georgia pull the flip? Yeah, I think chances are high that Georgia could pull the flip there. USC will have to get him back on campus a lot. Isaiah was just at Georgia for the unofficial visit for Scavenger Hunt Weekend. He's going to come back now for the official visit on May 31st as well. So a lot of visits, a lot of interest right there for Georgia and Isaiah Gibson. Cortez Smith, very impressive offensive lineman. Can play center, can play maybe an interior guard spot as well. Georgia's been recruiting him for some time. He's down to a final group. He's deciding on July 20th. Big Usmani Kromah out of Leesburg, Georgia. Dontrell Glover, he's on that list. The young man was a starter at Langston Hughes as a freshman. Couldn't even bench press 135 pounds, but he had great film. He played winning football as a freshman for some very good early Langston Hughes teams. Now the young man's bench pressing 475. He is mean. He is nasty. The type of guy that Georgia goes after. That feels like a Georgia-Florida State battle right there. Bryce Davis, had a chance to chat with him this week up at Grimsley High School. He's down to 3 schools. He's down to Duke. He's down to Clemson, and he's down to Georgia. Coach Uzo Duribe was just up to North Carolina to visit Bryce Davis on Monday of this week. Bryce Davis is going to make his decision on July the 20th. That's the first slide. Second slide, let's take a look at it right now. Juan Gaston Jr., Travis Smith, he was part of our DawgNation Big Five. So was C.J. Wiley. You got a good update there on our Big Five on Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. Zayden Walker with a decision date of July 5th. Another great unofficial visit for Zayden Walker to Georgia out of Sly County. Justice Terry, again, a guy, we've written about him a lot. We've shared his story. He's a guy that's going to take his final decision all the way up to early signing day as well. Same thing for Elijah Griffin. And then David Sanders Jr., the subject of our DawgNation conversation tonight. He discussed he'd really like to have his decision put to bed by early August, end of July. He's going to go on his team retreat, very likely, and do that. He said he's very likely to take all of his official visits. But he did drop a caveat in there that if he feels like he's ready, and that's where he wants to go, he might shut it down in the midst of those official visits as well. Clemson gets the first one of those, followed by Georgia. The rest of the month, he will go to Ohio State, Tennessee, and Alabama as well. Those are your top early targets. Who's just off the list? Well, there's a lot of names, but we're trying to trim this down as the weeks go by. Malachi Goodman, very interesting there. That guy's out of Paramus Catholic, same program which produced the late Devin Willett. Michael Carroll, another one. Northeastern dog targets here. He just dropped Georgia into his Final Four. Michael Carroll. Very impressive film on that. Very nasty, very tenacious guy right there. Kalen Edwards, Christian Gass, local guy, Christian Garrett, Prince Avenue Christian. Always enjoy talking to Christian and his family. He's making his decision on July 20th as well. Very much prioritized defensive lineman in the 2025 class. We mentioned Javon Boggs earlier. He's got his decision set for July the 3rd as well. Next up, we got a few more names. We're keeping it to 2 slides. Otherwise, we don't want to overwork our producers. Bo Jackson, who just visited, he's going to see Alabama and he's going to see Ohio State. I think Georgia had a great official visit for Bo. I think they gave him a lot to think about. I think Georgia has consistently stayed within that top 2 range for Bo Jackson, and I think they're still solidly there after the official visit. Now he's just going to see what happens with his next 2 decisions. As we've reported on DawgNation.com, Bo does not want to do any media after his visits. He wants to give proper respect and solitude to his decision process with his officials. Probably not going to make any media statements or talk to any media until after he's made his decision. Todd Robinson out of Valdosta, Chuck McDonald, Taylon Taylor, another very impressive wide receiver target that really likes Georgia. Really, his decision is down to Ohio State, Georgia, and Notre Dame. I'm going to tell you, folks, let's just take a quick second here and talk about James Coley. James Coley, in his first year back, he's coming off the top rope. He's coming out from behind, out of the locker room, firing and swinging. And he's got Georgia amongst top 4, top 5 status with a ton of marquee receivers in this 2025 class. Guys, that is your top targets and just off the list. Let me see. Guys, got any questions coming up? Let me see. CK Emmett fan, do I think Georgia will take 6 offensive linemen like last year? Probably 5, probably 6 if it can be the right 6. And then also, I saw somebody ask earlier, I believe it was Randy Hall. I think the number for both the offensive line and wide receivers, I think they'll start at 10. Depends on if they can add one more they really like, or if they can add one more they really like at other positions. I do feel maybe I could see Georgia only signing 4 high school receivers and then going getting 1 to 2 transfer portal receivers as well. That's kind of the way the program is working right now. Guys, it has been another Before the Hedges. It has been my great privilege to talk about Georgia football recruiting with each and every one of you again on another Wednesday night. Love hanging out with you guys. Love trying our best to give you all the intel, all the information that we can. Again, I got to give a big thanks to Kaylee Mansell, our marvelous producer here on Before the Hedges as well. Brandon Adams, DawgNation Daily in the morning. DawgNation at Large with Miss Mansell and Connor Riley, her nemesis, her rival, her co-host, her cohort as well. The man with this very specific emoji that he loves more than any other. Of course, you got Mike Griffith on the beat every Monday evening on the DawgNation social platforms and social channels. Check out DawgNation.com. I had a really good story today on Ryan Montgomery. Got a chance to really kind of change the narrative a little bit for everybody thinks about Ryan and how potentially he's a lot more talented than just a hardworking kid that's a good fit, that was good enough to be offered by the University of Georgia. The words elite are starting to come into the conversation there now with Ryan Montgomery, especially after what he did at the Elite 11 Regional at State College in Pennsylvania. Guys, that has been your intel. Thanks again for joining us. I know you guys could be anywhere right now on a Wednesday night. I'm so glad you guys choose to spend it right there. Congratulations again to Top Dog for winning the Before the Hedges scavenger hunt in the middle of the program last week. Thanks again to Kroger, our wonderful sponsor over the years. Folks, that has been your intel. I'm Jeff Sentell. We'll see you guys again later on the pages of DawgNation.com.